What is up, everybody? This is Alex from IHE. Escape will make me God. So I've had a lot of people ask about my thoughts on Bungie's game Marathon, especially with all the Destiny videos I've made, all the times I've spoken about Halo and whatnot. And I'd kind of been holding off not only on actually playing the game, but just kind of seeing the temperature, seeing how things settle, and now we've got sales numbers and player counts. So this is getting interesting to me, and I'm kind of using this video as a tool to see in the comments if anyone can convince me to actually hop in the deep end and start playing this, because I, from what I can gather, think this looks like Bungie's best game in a very long time. But as someone who tends to prefer PvE or single-player type experiences, there was something about the hardcore nature that has put me off jumping in the deep end and committing any serious time to it. But I have to say, the aesthetic and the music and the design seems extremely alluring and cool and right up my alley, but I'm still not sure if I really want to commit quite yet with some of this information that I just teased at the beginning. So let's start with sales, because I think a lot of people expect me to just kind of like hate on this game because of Bungie and Destiny. But obviously I want Bungie to make good games again. Of course, that's what I want. And this kind of seems like an unfortunate situation where they've made a really good game, but it's kind of hardcore and niche enough at this moment anyway, that's not that approachable. It's kind of the inverse of Destiny in a lot of ways, where that was so broad and had this enormous advertising budget and people just jumped in by the millions and millions. Whereas here you can see from this Games Radar article, Marathon sold just 1.2 million copies with nearly 70% on Steam. Analyst estimates it hasn't exactly made the splash Sony and Bungie wanted. It's not like 1.2 million copies is bad. There are plenty of devs that would murder for those kind of numbers, but the business realities and context of kind of the state of Bungie and the Sony relationship and how big their staff is. The latest estimates and quotes I can find are about 850 people, which is enormous. And they're not in a cheap part of the world to run a company like this. So there are some unfortunate economic realities that I think are going to be coming home to roost soon. I think that 850 number is going to be lower as we approach the next quarter. So it's not that surprising to me that 70% of players are on Steam, with only 19% on PS5 and 11% on Xbox. With the weirdest thing about that just being that it's supposed to be like a PlayStation game. That's extremely low for a game positioned as sort of a, hey, we own Bungie, this is kind of our exclusive type thing, like a Helldivers situation, except it's on Xbox on release. So yeah, it is a fraction of the audience of something like an Arc Raiders, but I'm not sure if Arc Raiders actually hurts it at all. It probably only helps Marathon really with its popularity and kind of exposing the extraction gameplay style to more players. But I guess going back to the Destiny comparisons, a repeated critique I see is the approachability and especially its onboarding, surprise, surprise, which you'd think would be a priority after their experience with Destiny and also with how hardcore it is. You'd want to find some way to ease people in. That used to be what a single-player campaign was for, but I'm an old man yelling at Cloud about that at this point. Like, I would have bought the game at this point if it had, you know, like an 8-mission single-player or something, but yeah, I'm a dead horse on that one. So it's reviewed extremely well. The people who play it seem to be really into it, but that's when the kind of broader issue comes in, is that not that many people playing it, which is a bit of an issue when it's a live service game that, to be healthy, requires dedicated audience. It's not that it doesn't have a dedicated audience, but it's just not going to shake out. These numbers are not going to shake out with how much it costs to not only make and develop, but to pay that many staff to maintain it. Like, as of me recording this today, the game's hardly been out a month, and its peak is about 88,000. It's not necessarily a death sentence. Some games like this are able to develop goodwill and kind of spread by word of mouth and get more popular after release, especially if they release a bunch of patches or updates. But this is definitely soft for a company that enormous and just makes Sony look even stupider for buying them in the first place, because I don't know like what they were expecting for a game like this. I'd actually love to see their internal expectations as to what this was going to sell. So if we just do some like really simple estimates, and I'm by no means saying this is accurate in any way, this is just kind of a roundabout way of making a point. So if we sell 1.2 million copies at $40, so it wasn't a full-priced game, that adds up to what? 48 million, which is nothing to scoff at. That's an enormous number. But in context, let's say Bungie has 850 employees roughly, times that by, let's loosely say the average salary at Bungie is 100k, you know, balancing the difference between a top-level designer compared to like a QA tester or community manager or something. So that figure comes to what, 85 million for a year. So even if there is a huge discrepancy between what these real numbers are, just on the most basic level, this isn't adding up, and that headcount is going to go down or absorbed into other parts of Sony or something. Because it's not exactly like Destiny can bolster to fill in the blanks. Like, Destiny's like dead at this point. Like, it's over. This is no longer a serious revenue stream for a company of that size. And they're based in what, like Bellevue, Washington? Pretty expensive place to run a company like this. High cost of living. So yeah, this is kind of a bummer, but not that surprising or unexpected. So what do they do? What actual options do they have now, outside of cutting a lot of heads off? I think I'd be terrified if I was working at Bungie. I'd not feel secure at all. And now the chickens are kind of coming home to roost with all these awful managing decisions compounding on themselves, when now, what other projects do they have? When is their next game even going to be? I know Marathon has some kind of microtransaction model. I'm sure that's bringing in something, but I highly doubt it's anything close to a Eververse from Destiny, or what would be required to support a studio of this size, just because of that lack of player count. And really, I guess if they want to boost player numbers, their only other option is to make it free to play at some point, which might happen. Didn't Rainbow Six do that at a certain point? Which is a shame. It like often compromises a game. Like, look what happened to Destiny when it went quote unquote free to play. So yeah, all in all, it is a bummer that a game of this quality is kind of being eaten alive by the market. But this is totally on management. This game has been in development for so long, they have nothing else lined up. I'm kind of watching with bated breath just to keep an eye on the situation and see what's going to happen, because the studio meant everything to me at a certain point. It's almost sadder now that they've made something genuinely excellent, but it's not really enough. So let me know, do you think I should hop on the game? I'm tempted to try it out, maybe do a trying to play of my initial experience or something. I think the idea of the rook runs you can do, where you go in solo into an already existing match and you're kind of like this scavenger and it's more of like a horror vibe. I don't know, let me know your thoughts on the game, the whole situation at Bungie post Destiny 2. How ridiculous it is that they have basically nothing else on the docket, with it all riding on this kind of hardcore, somewhat niche, but quality extraction shooter. And I guess I'll see you on the next video. Bye!